It is a massive, and I mean massive, recruiting weekend for Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers. Some names to keep an eye on as LSU hosts a slew of 4 and 5 stars this weekend.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, y'all? Welcome into Locked On LSU. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We're also on YouTube as well. LSU has a huge recruiting weekend. There's going to be 4s and 5 stars from all across the country in Baton Rouge taking a visit to the LSU Tigers. Brian Smith, Locked On's official recruiting insider, is with us to break all of that down. And of course, like all of our recruiting content is, today's edition of Locked On LSU is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. So that's why LinkedIn Jobs help us find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Brian Smith, appreciate you for joining us today. On a scale of 1 to 10 on the excitement scale, how should LSU fans be feeling about this weekend?
10.
Okay.
10.
Perfect. That is what I love to hear.
Some of my brethren and I were laughing about the LSU visit list for this weekend, this past Sunday at Under Armour, Miami, of all random places, just because we're just talking about recruiting in general. Like, what's going on with LSU? Everybody and their brother is going to Baton Rouge this next weekend. So obviously Bryce is coming back. I might also start with arguably the best player in the nation. He's going to be back and probably helping Brian Kelly recruit, and that kind of helps. So him in his 6'5" freaky frame will be headed down from Detroit to Baton Rouge. Dakorien Moore is going to be back, the receiver that everybody's still recruiting despite his commitment from LSU. This is his first trek to Baton Rouge since being committed to the Tigers. That's something they're going to try to do as often as possible, because if he's in LSU's house, then he's not at, Texas or wherever else. So elite receiver. There are other elite receivers. Jaime Ffrench from Jacksonville, obviously a big-time player that everybody in the country wants, once committed to Alabama. I know it would break LSU fans' hearts if they took a player away from Alabama. I know how much you personally loved the Crimson Tide, Caroline.
It just hurt my heart for Kalen DeBoer. Those poor Rammer Jammers.
Yeah, that's right. Caleb Cunningham, another elite receiver, arguably those three are the three best in the country, is also coming down from Mississippi. He is a prime target for everybody. He's a 5-star. To get the three arguably best receivers on campus when Bryce is there, do you think that's coincidence? I think they would all like to sit around and talk about options. That would be my guess. So I'm really curious to see how that goes. Hopefully I'll talk to Jaime, among others, after this weekend, but I'm curious about that. Looking at defense, you and I have constantly discussed this position of corner, Caroline. One of the kids that I actually spoke to this past weekend at Under Armour is Chris Ewald from Chaminade Madonna in South Florida. He's coming. Auburn is after him. Miami is after him. Georgia is after him. The usual suspects. He was one of the best players at Under Armour, regardless of position. He's got an invite to the game. Big-time player. That's a kid that LSU needs. And a certain DB coach at LSU is known because he, once again, as we've talked about many times, always ties to Florida. Chris has a connection. That matters. Recruiting is about relationships. Ewald is a top 100 recruit, and he's a kid that's going to be able to play pretty early. Looking at some of the other guys on my list, there's another South Florida kid, just to add one more name that if you didn't know about, is Cortez Mills, a receiver. He go on MVP overall, according to On3, for what it's worth. He's a South Florida kid that LSU's trying to get. I'm excited, though, just overall, because I went through the list, and everybody was a 4 and 5-star guy. I have about 20 other names, but like Chase Sims from Texas is a big-time player, a defensive tackle. Then you have guys coming on board that are like Elijah Melendez, is committed to Miami. They're trying to flip a Miami kid out of Orlando. They didn't leave a rock unturned. And this is probably the best unofficial visit list for any school in the country for the entire spring.
Wow. I have wondered that, of living in our LSU bubble. Of course, there's plenty of reason to be excited, but also, is Texas A&M having the same kind of spring day with this similar invite list? Texas, Alabama, Georgia. From the sounds of it, this is the best of the best.
Yeah, and everybody's got their own approach.
Yeah.
Part of it, again, I think like receiver, you want them, if Bryce can come, that makes all the applicable sense in the world.
Mhm.
But a kid like, Sims, Melendez, defensive players, to get them all in one spot at the same time, that's unique. And I know that Corey Raymond, among other players, coaches that are at LSU getting these kids here, this is their chance to set up OVs. LSU's got a pretty good list of OVs already, but this is where you make your money. If you get kids on campus during spring ball, they watch practice, they go hang out at Death Valley and all that. That's when you can set up official visits during the weekend or shortly thereafter. And if you don't get kids on campus, you're probably not going to get those, especially with the 5-star kids, because they can go wherever they want. They can pick Ohio State, Clemson, wherever they want to go anytime they want. I think LSU has a chance to legitimately sign the number one class now. This weekend should give them that opportunity. If they don't, part of that's just potluck because, again, these kids can go wherever they want, but nobody's doing a better job right now than the LSU Tigers.
They can go wherever they want, and I have no problem with it as long as this coaching staff and this recruiting staff is doing their due diligence. You can't force a kid to come to LSU, but if you're putting the full court press on and you're doing everything within your power, then that's all that I can ask. I want to start off with the wide receiver position. You mentioned Caleb Cunningham, Dakorien Moore, Cortez Mills, Jaime Ffrench is another one that'll be in Baton Rouge this weekend. It seems like there is so much more traction for so many more of the top talent across the country, not just in the state of Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas. How much of that is LSU in 5 years had the best wide receiver duo in all of college football with 2 offensive rookies of the year and now 2 potential first-round picks in Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas? How much of it is proven success at the next level? How much of it is this coaching staff, Cortez, Hankton, Joe Sloan, Brian Kelly? Is it a little bit of both?
I think it's both, but I think the draft picks are the most important part. Your friend of mine, John Garcia Jr., and I were talking about this a couple of days ago. With receiver, fair or not, those kids don't go to schools, no matter how well they're coached or how good the scheme is respected, unless they see NFL draft picks. It's probably not the best way to go about it because coaches change constantly.
Yeah.
But recruits don't always make the greatest decisions either. Right now, it's helping LSU, so I doubt Bayou Bengal fans care. But at the same time, they've also got to put in the work because, I know Jaime Ffrench very well, known him since 8th grade. He can go wherever he wants, any weekend he wants. He's going to Baton Rouge this weekend. He's developed some kind of relationship or he wouldn't be going there. It's that simple. So they deserve credit. But, like you just mentioned, some of the guys, I don't know what Malik ran, but I'm sure it was sub 4.5, and I've seen him make it to gazillion catches that have been on SportsCenter. I'm sure Jaime has seen those too. Yeah. Everybody says, well, I'm the next one. Alabama was that team for a while. LSU's kind of taken that market. Why not LSU? Now, Ohio State obviously still has some, but LSU was better than Ohio State last year at receiver. So maybe they're the team that's kind of wide receiver now.
I would agree with you. LSU was better than Ohio State, which is crazy to say because Ohio State had a receiver who was a Heisman finalist.
I know.
Which is wild. Let's switch to the other side of the ball. On the defense, specifically in the secondary, there is one player in particular that I have heard so much about, that you have talked so much about, and it sounds like he is worth all of the talk and more. We'll get into that with Brian Smith coming up next. All right, I want to tell you about Amazon Fire TV. So Fire TV is truly the easiest way to watch all of your streaming favorites, to watch YouTube TV. And hey, you don't have to pay all of those really expensive cable costs. Fire TV is your destination for sports. They've got live games, highlights, in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can just plug into your existing TV. So if you don't have a smart TV, don't worry about it. You can just plug in the stick. If you do have a Fire TV, then you download the app. It is that easy. And then you'll have access to millions of movies, TV episodes, and of course, free and live TV as well. So whether it's opening weekend for baseball, which is quickly approaching, and I cannot wait, or the college basketball tournament also quickly approaching. March is such a good sports month. You're going to want to have a Fire TV. So you could be listening saying, what in the heck is Fire TV? TV. Well, Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. I mean, who would ask for more than that? That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. So Fire TV channels lets you dive into all of the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all of the latest in the world of sports. March Madness, NBA, MLB, so much more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Whatever you're into, Fire TV has got it. So check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. Check it out. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/lockedonfiretv. All right, rolling along here, Locked On LSU. Brian Smith, Locked On's official recruiting insider, is with us. And today's edition of Locked On LSU is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. Massive recruiting weekend for LSU coming up this weekend. DJ Pickett, 5-star corner in the 2025 class. I can't look at a single recruiting site without finding one of the top 5 articles being about DJ Pickett. I don't think that you and I, Brian, can go a week without talking about DJ Pickett. Tell me about this kid, and he will be in Baton Rouge this weekend, correct?
I don't know if he's coming or not, but I just know that he's been enough. He was there recently. He kind of does everything under the radar. If he showed up, it wouldn't surprise me. I haven't asked, but it doesn't make any difference. His last trip, I believe, was to LSU. So he was there kind of on his own. He's a quiet kid.
Yeah.
6'4" corners, though, can go where they want, when they want. So, and again, he is 6'4". His cousin, Booker Pickett Jr., is 6'3.5", 6'4". Booker told me the other day that DJ's definitely taller than he is. So Booker just signed with Miami to play outside linebacker. So anyway, Booker is a great player, but DJ's on a whole nother level. He's a kid, as I've said on this show before, I would have taken him as an 8th grader. As a corner, he was 6'1", 6'1.5" in 8th grade, locking up kids in Tampa. My buddy Chad Simmons stopped by to see him the other day. He said glowing things about LSU. It's one of the first times. DJ doesn't talk a lot. Gave a lot of glowing reviews on LSU, and Chad likes LSU's chances, and Chad's a close friend of mine, and Chad says that he means it. That it's just random. He isn't going to just make stuff up. And he has a great relationship with Corey Raymond. This is a kid that's going to be a first-year starter wherever he goes, more than likely, and he's the rarest of the rare. He's a 3-and-out player, and everybody knows it. So I had somebody in the business last year say he's the best recruit in the country for 25, and this is a school that knew they had no shot at it. So it's unsolicited. Right. Everything about him checks the boxes, and he could play safety. He could play receiver. It doesn't really matter. DJ Pickett is the real deal.
Well, I mean, and I know that is one that LSU is pursuing heavily. It's not even just getting the kid. It's making sure he doesn't go across the street to another school in the SEC so you don't have to play him. How much, because I know that there are a lot of players that LSU is pursuing, that Texas is pursuing. And I know other schools as well, but just specifically Texas here. On the defensive side of the ball, I know Bo Davis is a defensive line coach, but how much push does he really have with even, non-defensive line defensive recruits? Maybe guys like DJ Pickett that Texas is really pushing hard for.
This matters because you can use it as your overall selling point to make LSU's defense great again. You and I talked off the record during last season. Well, everybody made fun of their secondary, but even the D-line didn't live up to their expectations consistently.
Yeah.
They had moments, but that's why they brought him in. They're going to be able to say to DJ, Chris Ewald, or any other corner they're trying to recruit, you're going to have help up front. We just got the guy that had the number 1 and the number 2 guys by Pro Football Focus at defensive tackle in the country in terms of efficiency last year. Part of that's recruiting, which the guy recruited them, but he also coached them. So it's not like LSU is going to be short on talent up front for very long. We both know that'll change. And Pickett, he wants to play for a great team. I know him well. The last time I talked to him, he's at a pretty average high school program, but it's kind of a family tradition where he's at in Zephyr Hills, just outside of Tampa. That's where he's going to finish up at. I think he wants to take a step up. So he's going to look at the class that he's going to be a part of. Again, he knows Bryce is going there, and I've talked to him about some of that kind of stuff. having the coaching staff that tries to get all those guys together, it's going to matter. So yeah, it is important. They don't want to be just on an average team, these elite players. They want to win.
Who do you think is the leader in the clubhouse for DJ Pickett?
LSU.
Over
Probably.
Miami?
I mean, it'd be close, but I mean, that would be my pick.
Okay.
Again, Chad's not going to hand that to me or put it in that article or whatever for fun. And DJ, one of his last visits, I believe it was LSU, was his last trip. He just likes LSU. He's a really quiet kid, though. You're not going to get much out of DJ in general. That's just his nature. And this is a recruitment where, like, he even put Florida out of his list because Corey got canned there and came back to LSU. But now they're trying everything they can to get him, Florida State, etc. This will be a very long battle. In the end, LSU and Miami are the two that I think it'll come down to. Just my personal opinion. Mario Cristobal can recruit.
Yes, he can. Absolutely, he can. Can he manage possessions in the final few seconds of a game? Not really. Can he recruit? Yes, absolutely, he can. Any other names on the defensive side of the ball that you think are high on LSU or to keep an eye on?
The Elijah Melendez kid is really interesting because he's from Osceola, just south of Orlando. He's got an offer from all but one SEC school, every ACC, etc. He's committed to Miami. When I saw his name pop up on the LSU list, I was like, oh, he's another kid that could pretty much go where he wants. Top 200 by everybody, top 100 by most. He looks like a professional boxer the way he's built. He could probably be a model, but he's a thumper on the inside. LSU needs help at all three levels. There is no one part of that defense that is in happy land right now. So that would be a big addition. I don't think that LSU is going to turn down any defensive talent. I'm curious what he thinks because he's a really positive kid and seems to like everywhere he goes. Can LSU be the one that kind of separates themselves? Maybe. He's taken several trips, but technically committed to Miami, although I don't really consider him that.
They sometimes commitments, they just mean, like paper rings, if you will.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Especially this early. But coming up next, I want to get into really that exactly of what are some names to keep an eye on, players that could be willing to commit early, could be more than happy to start planning some of those official visits, some other names to keep an eye on, and what this weekend really means for LSU. We'll get into that coming up next with Brian Smith. All right, I want to tell you about LinkedIn Jobs. So when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. So the company that I work for, the radio station that I work for, we were looking for a producer. We had a producer quit in the middle of football season. We're like, look, it's the busiest season of the year. We need to fill this role quickly. And also, we can't really break the bank when we want to hire this next producer. So we went to LinkedIn Jobs. Why did we do that? Because LinkedIn's not just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals that you cannot find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all of that while making the process easy and intuitive. And I know what you're saying. Easy. Yeah, right. Hiring is never easy. But with LinkedIn Jobs, when you have that many quality candidates, it makes the hiring process that much easier. It's so easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/locked on college. That's linkedin.com/locked on college to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, rolling along here, Locked On LSU. Recruiting this weekend, it's going to be all the buzz in Baton Rouge. Brian Smith, Locked On's official recruiting insider, is with us. Are there any guys that you have heard from that are going to be in Baton Rouge this weekend that are looking to commit, that want to go ahead and commit, or want to go ahead and get those official visits in the books to make up their mind, to kind of pledge their allegiance, whether it's to LSU or elsewhere?
The kid that everybody keeps kind of wondering about is James Simon. I don't know him personally, but some of my friends do.
Running back.
That's right. He's out of Calvary Baptist up there in Shreveport. It's always had players. Heck of a running back. If they could pair him with Harlem Berry, if you're an LSU fan, you know who that is, the great running back from the New Orleans area. it'd be as good a 1-2 punch as you could sign in any given year in the history of college football. You'd have the true burner with the pounder inside that's got some moves. That's, LSU, as you and I talked before the show, is not exactly in the greatest spot at running back right now.
Mm-hmm.
They could really use 2 running backs in this class that could play early. And I think both of them would be able to do so. So that's the first one to mention, but it's not the only. There's a kid in the state of Alabama by the name of Micah DeBose.
Mm-hmm.
He's at Viger High School in the Mobile area. He's an elite offensive line prospect. His recruitment has been all over the map. Committed to Georgia at one point, decommitted. Thought everybody thought he was going to Auburn. Now everybody's thinking he's going to go to LSU because he took a trip. He's supposed to be back this weekend. Maybe he pulls the trigger. Maybe it's Simon. Maybe it's both. I don't know, but those are elite prospects. So even if it's just those 2, LSU fans should be happy because they're both really talented.
What about Bryce? Bryce Underwood, number 1 player in the country in the 2025 class. He's committed to LSU, but of course not going to sign your letter of intent until, as currently constructed, December, barring any changes to the NCAA National Signing Day rules. How concrete do you believe his commitment is, understanding that 17 to 18-year-old kids change their minds on a dime?
I guess it's probably about as good as it gets because he's been so many times. His recruitment is odd. I mean, the social construct of a kid from the greater Detroit area hanging out in Baton Rouge makes no sense to me, but the 2 cities have nothing in common other than they're both technically in the United States. But LSU was in on him early, and you do have to remember Brian Kelly spent the vast majority of his coaching career in the state of Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So he knows all the high school coaches, 7-on-7 coaches, etc. That being stated, he's back again even after Denbrock left for Notre Dame. I think that's the most important part here. Yeah. Denbrock's a heck of a coach. He goes to South Bend. Bryce still comes back down. So he didn't just like Mike Denbrock. He liked LSU. That's what it tells me. Do I think it's 100% off the table? No. Mm-hmm. From what I heard, Colorado was the school LSU was concerned about the most with Bryce before he committed to LSU. I don't know what school it would be now. Dion, in my opinion, is always a working guy. Anything can happen. You can ask Miami fans as it relates to Cormani McClain a couple cycles ago. Mm-hmm. So anything is possible. But right now, I think he's going to end up in Baton Rouge.
That's what I love to hear. Any final little tidbits or nuggets ahead of this big recruiting weekend for LSU?
2 things. Number 1, again, just to reiterate, it is about setting the baseline to get the official visit set up. Mm-hmm. They'll start happening in April, May, and they go through June. And then all the kids start committing around June 20th through the early part of July 4th weekend, what have you. Number 2, we've talked about this many times, and kudos to Brian Kelly and his staff for doing this. This list is a little bit broader, a few more national names, Texas, Florida, whatever. There are going to be a bunch of kids here soon thereafter, say the 15th, the 22nd, and on throughout this month, that are going to come to LSU that are from in-state. That is where this class still needs to be constructed each and every year, and they've laid the groundwork for that as well. They get these kids in early to see where they stand, and some of them are even better than some of the kids in state. But I think LSU staff knows their bread is buttered with the talent in the Bayou. So I still think they'll sign 10-plus kids from their home state, and bare minimum, this is going to be a top 5 class. If this weekend goes well, though, it could be number 1.
I mean, you look at the talent that's at least already committed. Bryce Underwood, Dakorien Moore. I mean, you've got the
Harlem Berry.
Yeah. Harlem Berry, yes, of course, the number 1 players at some of the most important positions need. So only gets better from there. But of course, like we've been saying, you need that defensive help. You need it everywhere. Yeah. Just defense, period. Secondary, defensive line, everywhere and anywhere.
That's true.
Brian Smith, Locked On's official recruiting insider. Appreciate you as always, Brian. Where can the people find some more of your work?
At FBScout_Florida on X. It's random right now. I'm starting to go to high schools and check them out and get ready for spring ball. Lots of recruiting tidbits as the offers are flying out. LSU is obviously offering more corners probably than anything else, as they should be, but it's just random. Like it's football right now is fun for me. It's like a kid in a candy shop because every time I'm on one of the social media platforms, there's something new to discuss.
Seems like there's something new to discuss every week, every month. Doesn't matter what time of year it is. It's football 30 at all times.
That's right.
Ryan, you are the best. We'll chat with you soon.
All right. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you.